Great. Welcome to the May 17th, 2017 meeting of the Traffic and Transportation Advisory Commission. Please rise and follow me for our Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll start our meeting tonight by a roll call. Ms. Zambrano.
Commissioner Engler?
Here.
Commissioner Gregory?
Here.
Commissioner Lemo?
Here.
Chair Reeder?
Here.
And Vice Chair Simpson is absent.
Thank you, Ms. Zambrano. I noticed that Mr. Finley isn't here tonight. He is in Berkeley attending his son's graduation. So I think I can speak for all of us to give them a big way to go. Hoorah. Hoorah. And congratulate them on being able to get a degree from such a prestigious school as the University of California. So with that, we'll move on. Our first item is public comments. Ms. Zambrano, do we have any public comments tonight?
We do not have any public comments.
Thank you. Moving on to item 5, we have summary notes. Commissioners, are there any notes or comments on the summary notes? None at all? All right. Moving right along to item 6 already. Engineering reports. We have Mr. Lawami joining us tonight to give us a information item on the Thousand Oaks Boulevard specific plan. Thank you, Mr. Lawami.
Thank you. Good evening, chairs, members of Transportation, Traffic and Transportation Commission, and to remember that. Yeah, it's my pleasure to give you a summary of the Thousand Oaks Boulevard specific plan. It is one of the plans that the city's staff been waiting for a long time. Since I've been here, they've been talking about it for over 25 years. The need for a specific plan. So, with that, specific plan was adopted in the fall of 2011. And the boundary is, it encompassed the properties along Thousand Oaks Boulevard between Moore Park Road and Duesenberg Drive. There's over 240 acres of properties with over 200 property owners within the specific plan area. Again, the history behind the creation of the specific plan is in 2005. The property owners along Thousand Oaks Boulevard got together and formed the Business Improvement District, which is by law they can do that, and they could assess themselves and get money, funds to do certain things. And one of them is the preparation of the specific plan that staff worked with them to create the specific plan. In 2006, City Council adopted vision statements based on the goals of the Property Owners Association. Which was, again, submitted by the association, and it's a list of goals that they want to achieve in the specific plan. So again, in 2011, after working with the Boulevard Association for almost 2 years, the plan was adopted by the City Council. It was a lengthy process. However, it was a compromise between the city and the property owners to come up with a plan that's going to work for everybody and try to achieve some of the goals of the vision statement that was approved by the City Council. There was 2 amendments, actually 3 amendments to the specific plan. The first one was to allow a drive-through facility within the specific plan. The second amendment was to delete or take out the west side property that the city owns from the specific plan and include it in the Civic Arts Plaza specific plan. And the third amendment, which is the major amendment, took place last year in July. And that amendment added additional residential units to the specific plan. There wasn't enough, and modified the parking standards for smaller restaurants, and allowed the on-street parking to be counted towards the project that fronted that street. So that was a major amendment. And again, we've been working with the Boulevard Association again for almost a year on that one. But the results were really good for the Boulevard property owners. And added microbreweries to the specific plan, which was important process, important issue. Again, the goal of the specific plan is to create a viable, self-sustainable, pedestrian, safe, and walkable, friendly downtown. And it modified the regulations that the municipal code under the old zoning modified those regulations to allow a mixed-use project, which we did not have before, and building form, which means you have standards that create the project and you can follow those standards, and create pedestrian plazas that people will gather. So the intent again is to create a pedestrian-friendly environment. Even though it's a 3-mile stretch, however, the idea behind that to create nodes within that area to create the pedestrian environment. And part of the vision for the specific plan is to streamline the development of applications, and we did that through reducing some of the the time of processing application, and moved certain applications from planning commission to administrative review. So that's sped up some of the processing of applications. This example here shows a schematic of what a mixed-use project would be. The BID did a study. They took several properties on the boulevard, and they showed before and after. They showed the possibility of what could be done on a certain property, and that's a feasibility study that they've done, and they presented to the property owners, so they can show the property owners that you could economically build a mixed-use project, and you can still benefit out of that. So they've done several of those, and this is one of the examples. This is the corner of Pleasant Way and Thousand Oaks Boulevard, the old gas station at Steve's Automotive right now. So they're showing what the possibility is, what you can do with that. So this is an example of what could be done on the boulevard. The components of the specific plan, there's 4 chapters or 4 sections. Is land use, and that deals with development standard, permitted uses, and the kind of activities you can have. Development standards, and that's been broken into 2 sections. There's two major sections. One is the Civic Arts Plaza zone, and the other one is the specific plan. And each zone has a little bit different standards. And the reason for that is the Civic Arts Plaza zone is the downtown, the core area of the specific plan. So we created different standards to make the sidewalk wider than the rest of the boulevard, again, to achieve the goal of the pedestrian environment. There's a review process of applications and entitlements and amendments to the specific plan, and then there's a streetscape improvement section. And again, the streetscape improvement follows the same as the development standards, 2 sections: Civic Arts Plaza zone, streetscape, as well as the rest of the Thousand Oaks Boulevard specific plan. Under the land use, there's a table at the end of the plan that shows what permitted uses and what's allowed. And it's broken into 3 geographic locations within the specific plan. The first one is any properties along the frontage of Thousand Oaks Boulevard, and that has a set of uses that are permitted. And then adjacent to residential, again, that has its own set of uses that are permitted. And we're cognizant about new development adjacent to existing residential that's outside the specific plan. We need to make sure we don't impact those existing residential properties. So we have different standards for that, for those projects next to the residential. And then there's mixed use permitted uses that we did not have before in the city. So that That was one of the major goals of the specific plans, to allow mixed-use projects, which is residential over retail. And those mixed-use projects can only be along the frontage of Thousand Oaks Boulevard. They cannot be on side streets or in the back area. They have to be on the boulevard. Development standards, again, deals with different development standard than the C2 zone, which is the original zoning within the specific plan, especially the commercial. So based on that, and based on the vision of pedestrian environment, the plan says that you don't have to have front landscape setback. The building could be right up to the sidewalk. So that's the intent. The intent is to have that pedestrian feel to the building, walking, looking at the retail, or being part of a cafe or restaurants with outdoor seating. So there's no building setback requirements from the front property line, which previously was required of 20 feet landscape setback. So we wanted to bring the building closer to the street. Then the building height, under the old zoning, the maximum is 35 feet. But within the specific plan, it's gone up to 50 feet maximum height, average height, and 3 stories within that height. So that's, again, departure from the old C2 standards, but the idea is, again, to create that feel of a gathering space and to allow for a little bit of density to create the pedestrian over retail. And this is an example of a mixed-use project. The first floor will be retail, office. It could be either retail or office. And then the top floors could be either retail, office, residential, or just residential. So it shows some of the design, and the setback of the third floor, fourth floor needs to be set back further than, instead of going straight up, to give the building more interest. This is an example of a mixed-use project in Ventura. So that's the kind of project that the specific plan envisions. Again, the first floor is all retail or office, and the residential is on the top. And this is a 3-story building. So this is kind of what the plan envisions. Again, as I mentioned, the plan created its own parking standards. And the idea behind that is, the thinking behind that is that people are going to be living and working in the same area, and they're going to be walking. So in order to do that, we have to reduce the parking standards for the new development within the specific plan. So there's not a lot of deviations, especially for the retail. Used to be 4 per thousand, now it's 3 per thousand. So there's not a lot of difference. And through the studies and research we've done before the adoption of the specific plan, Thousand Oaks parking standard is stringent than other cities within the county and other cities that we did research with. So we felt that reducing that will not have that much impact. Additionally, we allow an on-street parking, so that could offset that reduction. Restaurants, with the amendment last year, any small restaurants up to 2,000 square feet, the parking will be 1 to 200 or 5 per thousand. And then after that, after the 2,000 square feet will be 10 per thousand. And the reason for that, again, we looked at small restaurants and the effect of a small restaurant, especially if it's a part of a shopping center. And the original plan was kind of penalizing smaller restaurants by requiring a lot more parking that they should have. And the smaller restaurants tend to be a quick serve, so there's not a lot of people sitting there for a longer period of time. So that's a departure from the old standards, which requires a lot more parking even for smaller restaurants. For the residential, again, because the specific plan, the mixed-use projects, and the idea behind either shared parking or now with the Uber and all that services that's coming up, we reduced the parking standards for apartments, not by much, but we reduced it to make economic sense of the project, especially with mixed-use projects, the value, the construction, and everything else. So the specific plan reduced. It's not too extreme from the current standards. And again, as I said, allowing the on-street parking. There was a study done by the bid by the property owner shows there is a lot of on-street parking that is not being utilized efficiently throughout the specific plan. So the idea is to look at those parking and how we can use them to accommodate the deficiency for on-street parking. And we're going to start striping the on-street parking starting in the west end of the boulevard. Real soon, we met with the Boulevard Association. We fine-tuning the design, and then we're going to start striping as a demonstration to get everybody used to the idea of the T on the street. So that should add more value to the boulevard specific plan and let people know you are in a different area of the city. And that's one of the goals that we need to differentiate the boulevard from the rest of the city by doing that.
Just a quick question here. Will there be some areas that you will find to differentiate parking as far as angled parking on the boulevard? Are we just right now dealing with parallel parking with the T's?
Right now it's all parallel parking. The angled parking, as we've done in front of the lakes, that requires a lot more land to accommodate. Since the city is going to do that, in the future, if a development comes in, they want to use the angled parking, then they need to understand that the portion of their land will be taken out for the angled parking. So, but for now, just parallel parking, that's what we're doing. And we have to comply with disabled access parking. So we put in the disabled parking spaces on the side streets to accommodate the block. So we've done a lot of research. Our city attorney done a lot of research, and we're required to do that. So that we're going to accommodate that as well. It will be closest to the curb cut, so people can come in from the street. So we have to do that. So the development standards, certain guidelines and requirements. One of them is, again, the emphasis is the public area, public space. So we're requiring that 3% of the building footprint to be in a public gathering space. It could be a patio, it could be an area where people, again, gather. That's a requirement. They could exceed that, of course. The more, the better, because that's where the pedestrian environment is. That's where people want to gather and hang out. So, but that's a minimum standards. Sidewalk width, again, as I said, there's 2 zones within the specific plan. The Civic Arts Plaza zone requires an additional 10 feet next to the existing 10-foot sidewalk. So a total will be 20 feet within the Civic Arts Plaza zone, and outside that zone will be a total of 15 feet, 5 plus 10. All the parking and surfaces, including loading zone, trash, needs to be behind the building. No parking is allowed in front of the building, between the building and the sidewalks. Everything has to be in the rear of the property. And with regard to the housing units that's allowed, the plan originally when it was adopted, there was 214 units, existing residential units that could be used. And they were distributed evenly within 3 districts, 71, 72, 71. And the specific plan contemplates that 50% of those units need to be built as mixed-use projects along the frontage. The other 50% could be standalone, outside, not on the boulevard. And we had an example of 3 projects that were built standalone off the boulevard. Clay Court is one of them, under construction right now. There's 26 townhomes. There's 4 units apartment just completed off Clay Court as well, and 36 units off the boulevard behind Instrumental Music. So those are off the boulevard, and they took the maximum units that's allowed to be standalone projects. Everything else has to be on the boulevard as mixed use. Again, this is just an example, and just happened to be Caruso's first project in Thousand Oaks as an example of a gathering space. That's what we're looking for, as a space where you can have tables and chairs and seating, and people will be able to gather. So this is it's more than 3% in this example, and that's what City Council is looking for, and staff as well, when reviewing projects, that we need more of this public amenity. Example of street fronts, again, as I said, the building all the way closer to on the sidewalk, and that's just an example of design of storefronts for retail. It has to be majority glass, open as roof to floor glass, and the idea again is pedestrian. You want to walk, you want to look, and interaction between the businesses and the sidewalk, the public space. Part of the specific plans to require a pedestrian connection. So it depends on the length of the property that you have. You can either have the entire frontage, the building, and pedestrian access on the side, or you can have the pedestrian access from the parking in the back to the front. And there's certain design standards for that to make it wider and more friendly and open. And that's how to bring the pedestrian from the parking lot to the front of the building. The streetscape, as I mentioned, there's certain design standards. There's two sections, Civic Arts Plaza and the rest of the boulevard, but at the same time there is treatments, streetscape treatments, include bulb outs, which at certain intersection we're going to be installing bulb outs on both sides to reduce the cross in the street, because right now it's 80 feet of asphalt. So with the bulb outs, we're going to reduce that depth, and hopefully if there's a median, we're going to create a refuge in the median. So again, to reduce that further, so people feel safe crossing Thousand Oaks Boulevard. Right now, it's just a nightmare to cross.
Quick question. Out back is the only place right now we have those, right? Isn't there a bulb out?
There is no
Right.
bulb out. There's a curb cut in the sidewalk, but there's no bulb outs.
Oh,
There
okay.
are no bulb outs in the city.
Haven't been over there for
Okay.
a while, so.
But
thanks.
we will be creating that within the downtown area, the core area.
Right.
Staff working on a streetscape design that's going to go to the council soon for the bulb outs, and that will be along with the Daily Group project that was just recently approved. With their construction, we'll be doing the bulb outs and street improvements.
Thank you.
So again, part of that is gateway signs, bulb outs, street furniture, decorative lights. It's going to be tree pallets for each zone. It's going to be new street trees. It's a combination of just to create a pedestrian feel again within the sidewalk, trash enclosure. Trash receptacles, and all that amenity that needs to be in the boulevard to create that feel. And this is an example of it's enhanced pedestrian node, but it's a bulb out and shows that in both corners of the streets there, and the bulb outs for us going to be 8 feet wide or 9 feet depending on the parking along that street frontage. So that's the idea behind that. This is just an example, and it shows the gathering space with the fountain in the top left corner there. So that's the kind of overall concept of what pedestrian nodes is and how it works with the streets. I talked about this. That's under construction, 26 townhomes of Clay Court, and that's a standalone project. The other one is behind Instrumental Music, 36 units. And this is a Luby's Restaurant. This is our first mixed-use project that was approved by the Planning Commission. They already started construction, but started doing work on the site. Hopefully start construction this summer and going to be ready by fall next year. This is a 36-unit complex. There's two buildings. The one in the front on the left-hand side is retail on the first floor, up 2 floors of apartments. The building on the right is an L-shaped, goes back into the property. There's retail on the first floor and apartments on top. And there is, in the back, there's 4 units that are live-work units. So people can have an office space and live in the same unit. So, and in the middle of that, between the two buildings, is the flood control channel. And the developer, the applicant, is using that as a paseo, pedestrian paseo area, with a fountain, with benches, with outdoor dining space. And there's a big oak tree in the back. It's the city's 25th anniversary tree. It's going to be a focal point of the project with more seating around it. So this is the beginning of the downtown village area that City Council discussed about a month ago, and we're going to carry this kind of amenities through the rest of the downtown all the way to the Civic Arts Plaza. So the idea behind that is future development. We're going to be requiring that the Paseo or the flood control channel to be a Paseo pedestrian, Paseo, no building on it, to continue this theme. So we'll have the connectivity between the properties, Civic Arts Plaza, and the lakes, to have the whole block connected together. So that's the idea behind that. And here's an example of what the flood control channel easement is. They're going to put outdoor dining area, seats. There's going to be lights. They're trying to create a Mediterranean village with the cafes, and we're working with them, talking to them about really creative uses that's going to be unique to the city to create this feel out there for the public and people who live in there. So this is a picture of the L-shaped building in the back, and you can see on the second floor in the back, those are the 4 live-work units. They're going to have access from a corridor, outside corridor. You can put a sign if you want, and that's an office space that could be used. There's going to be amenities as well, a pool and everything else in the middle there in the corner. But this is exactly what the specific plan envisions. This is what the city's looking for, city council waiting for, and this will be a great project for the boulevard. With that, I'll answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice presentation. Are there any questions?
Just a comment, I want to thank you for your work at the city, and I'm very excited to see the direction that the boulevard's going to take with this.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I did see in the report said the traffic was, the additional traffic this would bring in is fairly low. But as it matures and, there's more usage, if there is any traffic control, the developer is going to pay for whatever mitigation, right, that might occur after that?
Yes. When the city adopted the plan, they also adopted an EIR, Environmental Impact Report, and we looked at the potential development within the specific plan, and we factored in number of residential units and additional commercial square footage. And we looked at the traffic, air quality, we looked at everything. And based on the findings, we still have a capacity to go with. But there is mitigation measures if we exceed
Right.
with regard to certain intersections within the specific plan to be upgraded. So the mitigation measures in there. The first project, the Daily Group did not exceed any of those findings. So we're still well below what the AIR approved. So we're still waiting.
There will be later, though.
Yeah.
There will be. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Lemo.
Well, I first of all also want to thank Hader for over 20 years worth of work and focus on this, and including a lot of community outreach. Many times, whether you're talking about Councilmember Gillette and Councilmember Fox walking the streets, or all the early morning meetings that Hader and John Prescott had with the Boulevard Association. I have been spending a little time recently, as has been the founder of our company. He speaks around the country. I've spoken around the county here and in parts of LA County, and we probably will not have much mitigation necessary from developers. And the reason is we're in the middle, or we're at the beginning right now, but as the boulevard develops, we'll be ending up in the middle of a really unique nexus that is being felt more in the West than throughout the country, and that is that people are not using their own cars. For example, down in L.A., at the most popular centers, Google, the Uber transportation, is up 16%, so much so that they're now having certain areas for Uber drop-off. during some of the talks and things that we've had with Elon Musk, by 2025, like it or not, there will be a considerable number of autonomous cars, and that limits the amount of traffic because once the person's in the place they're at, a parking spot's not going to be taken anymore. So they'll be dropped off. The car does other things. It really is amazing if you take a look at what's happening. The least of our worries is automotive traffic, and the largest of our worries is pedestrian traffic. And I think that the specific plan does a very good job of addressing how to get more traffic here. The one thing that wasn't included in the EIR, which is really amazing, is that in a town the size of Thousand Oaks, the more people you keep home to spend their sales tax dollars, the less people are traveling north and south on the freeway to find what they're not finding here. So I think you guys have done a super job, and I'm very much looking forward to it. Hopefully it'll continue to develop quickly. I think Daley's project is probably one of the most, not only a beautiful project the way it's designed, but it fits exactly what the spirit of the specific plan was. Really a good job.
Thank you, Mr. Lemmel. The reason we asked you here is to see what transportation changes might occur as the boulevard develops. My first question is, what do you anticipate as this is built out will be the speed limit on the boulevard?
Well, in a successful downtown or pedestrian-oriented area, we'd like to slow down the traffic. We're not going to reduce any lanes. We're going to leave 2 lanes in each direction. So the flow of traffic is still going to be there, but it's going to be a little bit slower with wider medians and parking on both sides of the street. And that's the intent. I think the speed limit's 35 feet right now, but people drive 40, 45. We just want to slow them down a little bit. And that's going to take care of itself when we create the medians and the bulb outs. We heard a lot about if there's an accident on the 101 freeway, Teal Boulevard is going to be the secondary point to go through. We understand that, but that doesn't happen often. But we need to create a destination for the city and its residents, and that's what we're trying to accomplish here. We're not going to eliminate. We're cognizant of the flow of traffic. Council members were worrying about it when that plan was adopted. That's why we're not shrinking the boulevard by eliminating any travel lanes. We're going to leave them the way they are. We're just hoping the traffic will be slower.
I saw a development like this in a suburb of Dallas, and it was very successful. But part of the success was the ability of a pedestrian to cross from north to south, east to west easily, not have to travel all the way to the end of a block and travel on a light. How are you addressing this? Are you going to have small corridors mid-block for pedestrian crossings?
Yes, the streetscape improvement project that we put together based on the specific plan, we gave a copy of it to the Thousand Oaks Boulevard Association for their review. They hired their own consultant to look at it, and they came back with mid-block crossings. Oh. So that's an idea that we will be implementing. What we're trying to do, we don't want to spend money in doing the streetscape improvements, not knowing what the project is going to be. So as I mentioned, the data group's the first project. So we're implementing the streetscape room around the data group because we know exactly where the access point is. We know where the pedestrian access is. So we're able to do the pedestrian nodes, the crosswalks, and all these amenities because we know the project. But the same design concept will be carried through the downtown area. So if there's another project come in, we know what the streetscape design will be. The mid-block crossing is definitely one of the comments that we got from the association, that they want that. But at this point, we don't have a lot of pedestrian traffic yet. We need more projects to warrant that, and we will be designing something to that effect to create the mid-block crossings.
Thank you. And I noticed on your illustration that your crosswalks seem to have a different texture than the pavement.
Yeah, that hasn't been decided yet. We, Public Works staff and planning, been working on what that's going to look like, the design. We need to look at different options. And the bottom line is going to be the long-term maintenance of that and the consistency. We need to make sure that what we're going to put in our part of the public right-of-way is going to be carried throughout the area, and it's going to still look good after years of use. So we're looking at different options. Again, the cost, maintenance, but yeah, there's going to be a different texture, different look to the sidewalks.
Good. Last comment or question. You have not mentioned bicycle traffic. What does a design do to accommodate that?
Right now, the existing Shero is going to remain. We're not proposing to eliminate that, and there's not enough width to create a separate bike lane. But the Shero will be there.
Now, I learned the other day that although statewide you're not supposed to ride a bicycle on the sidewalk, here in the city, you can.
That's what I heard, but I don't know what the policy is. I thought that not allowed to ride their bikes on sidewalk, but maybe Jim can.
Yeah, it's correct. In the city of Thousand Oaks, we do have an ordinance that allows bicycle usage on sidewalks.
So as you plan this, do you anticipate bicycles riding on the 15 and 20-foot wide sidewalks?
The streetscape improvement that we're going to put in, it will limit what they do. It's going to be benches, it's going to be trees, uplights, pedestrian lights. So it's not going to be, it's going to be for pedestrian rather than for bicyclists. So hopefully we'll discourage them from doing that, because there's going to be a lot of connectivity between the building and the amenities that's in the sidewalk.
So we're not following the European model.
Of
Well, they seem to mix bicycles and pedestrians.
Yeah.
We seem to mix cars and bicycles.
Well, again, that's a policy that the city council need to consider.
Well, yeah, we should start a discussion on that, I think. Great, thank you. That's fine. Any other questions? Yes.
Well, one of the things that is being done, and I think you'll see it end up happening here on the boulevard as well, is on a lot of developments, there's special bicycle valet the same way there is car valet, because we should remember the downtown specific plan is not to encourage people to ride a bicycle from place to place to place. It's to encourage pedestrian traffic. So the same way we encourage a car to park, we would want to have safe spots for bicycles to park, whether they're, special bicycle parking areas, or whether it's, and you have, themed things where bicycles can lock to, or whether it's bicycle valet, which has worked out very well in a couple of towns.
Yes.
The parallel parking, is it going to have any special qualities, metered? I mean, they have some new meters that you have an app and it'll tell you an open space opened up. That
Not
kind of
at this point, no. We don't anticipate the crowd or the demand for that like down in LA, no.
So this will basically be a slow build over a long period,
Yes.
right? And we'll just let our self-driving cars drive us and then go park in the parking lot all by themselves.
Yes.
Thank you.
And just to add a quick thing, staff is working with 3 developers right now for 3 new mixed-use projects. So the activity is starting to happen. A lot of developers are anxious. They want to build in Thousand Oaks along Teo Boulevard. So hopefully, if things go well, we'll have over 300 units of additional mixed-use projects on the boulevard.
Great. Mr. Machiko.
I do want to add an item regarding the parallel parking on the boulevard. We do have an item that's going to be coming on the traffic before the Traffic Commission regarding the plan to mark the parking spots on Thousand Oaks Boulevard. So it's on our work plan, and it should be coming this summer.
Good. We'll look forward to working with you on that. Appreciate it. Any other questions? Good. Ms. Zambrano, I think we can forgo the public speaker section, don't you? All right. That brings us to Ms. Lowry. She will report on item 6B, the Dally Group Mixed-Use Project. This is a status report, informational. Oh, your microphone needs...
Good evening
There we
again,
go.
Chair Reader and members of the Traffic Commission. Again, I'm Kathy Lowry. I'm the city's bicycle coordinator at Bike to Work Week. Hope you all take an opportunity to ride your bike today or sometime this week. I'm going to be talking tonight about, at a request from the Traffic Commission, is how does city staff evaluate development projects for traffic impacts? So I'm going to go through the Daly project as an example, and then move on to what we look at for traffic impacts. So as Hader explained, that the Daly project was approved in February by the Planning Commission. It was a special use permit, an oak tree permit, and a landmark tree permit. I feel like heard a little bit about this. I'll just kind of buzz through it. You know, it's the old Loop Base site. It's located at just east of Herbs Road and Thousand Oaks Boulevard. There are several parcels as part of the project, and as Hader said, it was a proposed mixed-use project. The existing properties, Loop Base, but it also had a single-family home in the back, and the property under consideration for development is also the adjacent hillside development. To the east is the Leslie's Pool Store, and to the west is the Vintage Gardens shop. This is a site plan that shows how you ingress and egress from the site. The top red arrow is coming off Thousand Oaks Boulevard. You can only enter the site from Thousand Oaks Boulevard. There's no exiting from that driveway. And then at Zunica Ridge, you can enter, but when you exit, you must make a right out at the intersection. That's currently how it's designed now. And then there's two driveways at the back of the project. One leads to the surface parking, and then the other one leads to the underground parking facility. And also the bicycle corral is located underneath the L-shaped building. You already saw this picture. It's so I won't go into the detail on that. And the Paseo. And then we get to our traffic impact analysis. Okay, so our level of service goal in the city is C. It's we have A through F. A would be free flow traffic. Even if you had a signalized intersection, you wouldn't wait very long. F being the worst. We don't even want to think about how bad that would be. This wouldn't even be F. And then, so level service C it's a fair amount of congestion. You might sometimes have to wait through 2 cycles depending on if it was really busy out. But it's the city's council's goal is that all intersections operate at level service C, except for there's one over by Amgen at Rancho Caneo and Hillcrest that the council designated, said that one can be at a D. So what we look at is we have a project, and again we'll talk about the Daly project, and we would determine how many trips are generated by a specific land use. And we use national standards. It's the Institute of Transportation Engineers has a book. They publish a book. It's online also. It's called the Trip Generation Manual. And then we use these, it's an average of different land uses, or the different land uses, an average of a study done of many of similar land uses. And so using these rates, we apply it to different land uses in the city. So for example, a single family home has a trip generation rate of 10 per day, so that means you leave and come back 5 times, or cars do. So that would give you 10, or 1 p.m. trip. And again, that's an average. And ironically, just recently we did a little spot survey in the city of a neighborhood that we were able to determine it's just very specific in and out, and it was right on the 10 trips per day. So we feel pretty good about our single family home average. Then also Loop Base Restaurant, we use the trip generation rate based on a high turnover sit-down restaurant. And it generates 44 p.m. trips, and you add them together and you get 45 p.m. trips from that property. And then we look at, well, what do we expect to come from the daily project? Well, there's 36 apartments, so there'd be 23 p.m. trips. And in the case of the daily project, because they were very forthcoming that it wasn't just mixed use and they weren't sure what the retail was going to be, they said, we know pretty sure what we want. We want a quality restaurant and we want a high turnover restaurant. So this trip generation rate is actually very conservative opposed to mixed use, because mixed use could have assumed you might have a bicycle shop or a hairdresser, which has a lower trip rate than restaurants. Restaurants are one of the highest, especially restaurants with drive-thrus. So we applied a very conservative trip generation rate because we didn't want there to be any question when they did come in with this. Then somebody said, well, you knew it. Why didn't you just apply what rates you had? So they ended up with 66 p.m. trips estimated. And then we just do the math and we subtract the 45 existing trips from the 66 proposed trips, and there's a estimated net change of 21 trips. And what we do is we're looking at, okay, so you're going to have 21 trips. To have an impact that you'd need to analyze, it's an industry standard that you'd need to have 100 p.m. peak hour trips. We say traffic studies are actually, can be quite expensive. They have to be prepared by a licensed traffic engineer, and they do take a great deal of time. So it's not something we just make an applicant do for the sake of an exercise. So the 100 p.m. trips is the threshold. And since this was so clearly below the 100 p.m. trips, there wasn't any further analysis that we required of the daily project. Also, as Hader said, there was already a traffic study done with the environmental document as part of the Boulevard specific plan. And since this project was already considered in the Boulevard specific plan, it was consistent with what the environmental document had already said. So after we look at trip generation rate and determine if they're going to do a traffic study or not, we also look at staff level, how the site circulation is. We look at driveway locations, is there adequate site distance? We make sure that pedestrians have good access. On-site circulation, is there also good parking for both cars and bicycles? And then, as Hader also mentioned, that there's future improvements that they would pay traffic fees, that every project in the city pays traffic fees as well as this project. And it's usually the first thing an applicant wants to know is how much their traffic fees are going to be. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Lowry. Any questions? No? I just have a comment, and that is what I've learned here is that you actually use a trip generation table for your statistics. I always assumed that you would go out and look and count cars, but like you say, that's very expensive. So we just use standardized tables to understand what future traffic patterns might be like.
That's great. Unless should say, unless it's very specialized. Let's say we're going to have, for an example, Carl's Jr. was coming in with a new Carl's Jr. with a drive-through, and since they knew it was already a Carl's Jr., they're going to add a drive-through. The traffic consultant went and looked at very similar Carl's Jr.'s located very similar to a freeway and counted the trips at those Carl's Jr.'s. So if it's something we can do using national rates is kind of just still an average, so it's better to use something more specific if it's out there.
Great.
That's true.
Thank you. That was important to understand.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Yes.
Good evening, Chair Reader. I also wanted to illuminate also on the right turn out currently at Zuniga Ridge is an element that, as we look at this Thousand Oaks Boulevard streetscape project that Hader was mentioning, that's going to be something we're going to try to incorporate into that project and eliminate that right turn only movement that it currently exists there and open that up into a full access as that develops, which will help the accessibility of this intersection.
So there won't be a median in that immediate vicinity?
Not at Zuniga Ridge. We're going to try to pull it back so that Zuniga Ridge becomes part of the overall intersection there. And as we've studied it further, it doesn't require a lot of manipulation to actually do that.
Well, that's good. That'll eliminate a lot of U-turns further down the boulevard. So good. Thank you for your input. Appreciate it. Any other comments? No? All right. Again, I think, Ms. Domingo, we can move on with pass over public comments. Our next report is presented by Mr. Sweeting. Item 6C, Agura Road and Village Glen, flashing yellow arrow proposal. This is an action item. We will be taking a vote tonight. Mr. Sweeting, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair Reader and Commissioners. Good evening. This is a staff report regarding the request of a protected left turn at the intersection of Agora Road and Village Glen from a citizen back in 2014. This request was several years ago, and we were getting ready to make modifications to the traffic signal that includes a new controller cabinet and wiring. Since 2014, a new signal device has been implemented within the city that might be a good fit for this intersection, and we would like to incorporate it as part of the signal design. I will be providing a brief summary of how we chose a protected left turn, but would like to modify the design to include a flashing yellow arrow. The location is Agora Road and Village Glen, which is in the southeast portion of Thousand Oaks as noted on the map. The Traffic Commission heard an informational item back in November of 2014 regarding changing an existing permissive left turn for eastbound and westbound traffic on Agora Road at Village Glen to a protected left turn after a resident requested the change due to collision history there. On the upper portion of the slide denotes a permissive movement for the left turn, which is its current configuration. It shows a green circular ball, and lefts may proceed at any time, but must yield the right-of-way to the opposing through movement. In the lower picture, it shows a protected left turn, which has a green arrow. This is what the staff recommended a change to back in 2014. Left turns can be made under the green arrow, and the opposing through traffic must stop. So back in 2014, in determining whether or not a protected left turn is a good fit for the intersection, several considerations were evaluated. The existing roadway conditions, as noted on the screen, correctable collisions, and a cross product. Correctable collisions are generally those that are approach turn collisions, meaning the left turns colliding with an opposing through traffic. Rear end, side swipes, and hit objects are example of collisions that are not correctable by a protected left turn. Cross product is another way to determine if a protected left turn may be needed. In this case, we would multiply the left turns, which is 112, by the opposing through, which is 1,010. And if this number is over 100,000, then a protected left turn may be an option. And in this case, the number was over 113,000. And since there were 8 correctable collisions in 2013 and a cross product of over 100,000, it was determined that a protected left turn would be a good fit. So here's the basic timeline that we've gone through that brings us where we are today. After the hearing in 2014, a capital improvement project, CI 5354, was created in the summer of 2015 to provide the upgrades of the traffic signal that includes a traffic control cabinet, wiring, and the protected left turns. This project was funded for fiscal year 2016-2017. And in September of 2015, the Traffic Commission approved the installation of 5 flashing yellow arrows, and City Council approved those installation in January of 2016. 3 of the flashing yellow arrows were installed in May, and 1 in December of 2016. In January of 2017 of this year, the Traffic Commission heard the positive results of the initial installation of those flashing yellow arrows and approved an additional 7 at 7 different locations. At the January meeting, the Commission asked the status of the Agora Road Village Glen upgrade and asked if the intersection would be a good candidate to include flashing yellow arrows. So we're back tonight with information regarding the appropriate fit of a flashing yellow arrow at Agora Road in Village Glen.
Also, since the January meeting, the last flashing yellow arrow was installed in April at Rancho Road and Thousand Oaks Boulevard. Unlike the other two signal heads shown before, the protected or the permissive, this is a picture of the flashing yellow arrow configuration. The flashing yellow arrow is a hybrid of the permissive and the protected left turn. The permissive left turn essentially is the flashing yellow arrow. Whereas before, we were either protected only or permissive only. This gives us the best of both. In determining the compatibility of the flashing yellow arrow, Agora Road and Village Glen also meets other design criteria set by the city. And these are just some of them, such as sight distance, the position of the signal heads, and there are no dual or triple lefts at this intersection. When the citizen requested the protected left turn because of the concern of the traffic collisions, there were in fact 8 collisions in the year of 2013. And if there are 5 correctable collisions or more, other improvements should be considered to reduce collisions. But as you can see in the bar chart, several years prior to 2013 and the 3 years since in 2014, 15, and 16, there have been 2 collisions or less per year. So the 2013 was kind of an anomaly. So at that time, staff recommended a protected left turn because flashing yellow arrows were not a consideration at that time. Similarly, the cross park that we spoke about a few moments ago, in 2014, it made its peak. And before that, in 2017, it's now less than 80,000, and in 2013, it's less than 60,000. The nice feature of the flashing yellow arrow is that there is a time of day feature that allows the flashing yellow to be turned off. So if there is a cross product that is higher than 100,000, we could consider that. And there are time of day features currently running at several of the other flashing yellow arrows that have been installed in the city, and they've been running very successfully. Agora Road and Village Glen would be a good fit for a flashing yellow arrow. With the modifications that are needed for this intersection, now is a good time to make the upgrade to flashing yellow arrow. I handed to you earlier in the evening a letter from, or an email from the citizen that originally requested this proposed protected left turn, and she supports the installation of the flashing yellow arrow. You can refer to that email if you'd like. So the 7 locations that the Traffic Commission approved in January are expected to go to City Council on June 13th for approval, and staff would recommend that we add Agora Village Glen to that list to install a flashing yellow arrow. This concludes my presentation, and the staff recommendations are in your staff report, and staff is ready to take any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeting. Do we have any questions? Yes. Ms. Engler?
Thank you, Chair. Would the addition of this intersection be an 8th location that's approved, or do you remove one of the other locations from your list of flashing yellows that are going to council next month?
No, this would be in addition to those 7.
So we'd have 8.
Correct.
Okay, and are you using the method of controlling based on traffic? Are you seeing that you're adjusting the flashing yellow for higher peak traffic in other locations? Are you actually using that?
Yes, we do have the time of day in several locations at Duesenberg and Thousand Oaks Boulevard, at the high school in the morning, and at Rancho Road. So we do have that in a couple locations. At Hillcrest and Marin, there is no time of day. It's not needed at this point. Mm-hmm. So we do have that implemented, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lemmel.
Well, first of all, I appreciate the report. I thought it was great. The only comment I have is, in all the time I've ever been on the Traffic Commission, this is the only time these flashing yellow lights is the most consistent positive feedback I've heard from people ever. It's really pretty amazing. I didn't think people were paying that much attention, but it is a real positive in town, and I think it would be great here as well.
Thank you, Mr. Lemmel. I have one question concerning time of day. I know on that east-west corridor of Agoura Road, the sun is actually a problem. So would you adjust the signals to accommodate a motorist when it's very hard to see opposing traffic coming because of the sun?
Well, I'm not sure in what way. We have multiple east-west directional traffic signals, and we don't really modify the timing. We could, again, it comes kind of back to the time of day. Sometimes it sets at 7, sometimes it's at 5. So during the peak time is when we're really looking for that. But can always be turned on or off if there is an issue. And that's kind of the beauty of this signal, that we can turn it on or off as needed.
It's just labor intensive to do it then?
Somewhat.
Yeah. Right. And then just an aside, this is the first time we've put one of these lights close to the perimeter of our city. Westlake Village is 2 blocks away. Do you anticipate any problems with people from out of the immediate area knowing what a flashing yellow arrow is?
Hopefully not. They're in other parts of the state. They're in Nevada, and a lot of them in Las Vegas. Hopefully a lot of the Westlake residents have traveled through Thousand Oaks over to the Oaks Mall, where there's one. Maybe gone to a Thousand Oaks ball game or to the park there, and has utilized it at that location here at the Civic Arts Plaza for a show. Yep. So hopefully they've utilized them in several of our locations on the boulevard by Duesenberg. So hopefully they have utilized it, and if there is an issue, we'll be more than happy to talk to them, explain it. We do have brochures. It's online. We have a video. And lastly, we put up signs by the signal head and in advance when it's first installed.
Excellent. I don't think there will be a problem either.
Yeah,
but, yes,
I do want to add a comment on that. When we did embark on this program to install the flashing yellow arrows, we did develop those very those criteria, and we when we developed the list is where the candidate locations were. The first batch of 5 that we came across, we presented that to the commission, and we wanted to proceed slowly to make sure this program is successful, and which we are finding, and we're going to stick to that plan, that set of criteria that we adopted originally. So because Village Glen and Agoura meets those criteria, we feel that it should be a very successful implementation there.
Thank you. And the flashing yellow arrow is also in the California Driver's Manual too, so everyone driving with a license should be aware of what it is. Thank you. Yes.
I just have one thing to say, and that originally it was Chairman Reeder that suggested we looked into this, so I want to thank him.
Thank you. Appreciate the compliment. All right. Are we ready for a motion?
So I'd like to move that we accept staff's recommendation as submitted.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Ms. Engler?
I second the motion.
Motion second. Ms. Zambrano, vote please.
May we take a hand vote on this?
Hand vote's fine.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. And motion carries 4-0.
Thank you. Ms. Zambrano?
The Traffic Commission makes recommendations to City Council, and interested parties may attend the meeting and speak either for or against the recommendation of the Traffic Commission. Any person wishing to appeal a decision of the Traffic and Transportation Advisory Commission shall file a written appeal and pay an appeal fee with the City Clerk's office within 14 calendar days of this decision. The matter will be referred to the City Council at the earliest reasonable and available date. The appeal fee will be refunded only if the City Council overturns the Traffic and Transportation Advisory Commission's decision, and an appeal form is available from the recording secretary.
Thank you. This brings us now to item 6D, engineer report on the bicycle advisory team, an update information item. Mr. Mashiko?
Okay, yes, I'll just be real brief. These are basically the minutes that from a meeting, our bicycle advisory team meeting that took place on May the 3rd. We had a special guest from the Dutch Cycling Embassy of the Netherlands. They gave us a very nice presentation on some of the things that they're doing over there, and shared with us their experiences because they're traveling throughout the states right now, gathering information, seeing what we're doing, and seeing what the best practices are. And in addition, we also had a presentation on the Rancho Road Sidewalk and Bike Lane project by one of our engineers, and we had a good exchange of ideas and information on that. And that project will be coming to our Traffic Commission, I believe, next month.
Thank you, Mr. Mashiko. As you know, I attended that meeting too. What was your impression of how the Dutch looked at our sharrows?
I believe that their preference is to have as much protection as possible to the cyclists, and the sharrows, they provide very limited protection because there's not a physical separation between the cars and the cyclists. And so, again, I think we're only using the sharrows, or we're trying to provide separate bike lanes where possible, but in locations we just don't have that physical road width to provide a separate bike lane. So, I mean, ideally, we'd like to provide as many bike lanes as possible.
I was amazed at how amazed they were that bicycles are traveling on PCH and cars were whizzing by within 3 feet at 55, 60 miles an hour. I saw their hair stand up, didn't you? Thank you for your report. Item 7, status report of prior Traffic Commission's recommendations. Is that you too, Mr. Mashiko?
Yes, just to let you know, as Mr. Sweeting mentioned, June 13th, next month, the recommendation for installing the original 7 new locations plus this 8th location will be going to City Council. And then next month at our Traffic Commission meeting, we're going to bring back the Arbalest at Big Sky Drive. We'll have a design that's pretty much near completion. We'll share that with the Commission, and we'll invite the residents to come down, take a look at it, and then send that off to our City Council so that the project can go out to bid.
Thank you, Mr. Mashiko. Item 8, Commission referrals from March 15th. There are none. Brings us to item 9, work program and commission scheduled. Commissioners, any comments on our future agenda items? Thank you.
Oh,
item.
I just wanted to let you know I'll be in a training during our June Traffic Commission meeting, so I will not be attending.
Well, thank you, Ms. Engler. I will also advise everyone that I won't be here either. We have a quorum.
If Commissioner Simpson is
I'll
present.
be here.
If Commissioner Simpson is able to attend.
When exactly is our June meeting? Is it June 21st?
Yes.
I will not be here either. I'll be out of the country. We could move that meeting if necessary with that many of us gone, but I don't know where you would move it to. I mean, there's not a lot of places.
We're normally dark in July, correct? But I will be gone. I will be out of state in July.
So might we want to consider the possibility of, I don't know, June 14th? Does that work for everybody? Is the city open on Flag Day?
Okay. Yeah, we'll have to check the schedule to make sure that that's something that we can accommodate. Because this room might be utilized
by
for
somebody else. Yes.
By somebody else.
How should we proceed then, Mr. Mashiko?
I guess what we can do is if you want to take a vote to...
How about if we were to do this, Mr. Mashiko? If we were to... I'd make a motion that should the room be available and staff be available, that we move our June 21st Traffic and Transportation Advisory Commission meeting to June 14th. If it's not, then we can't move our meeting, and naturally the 21st is going to cancel. Just lack of quorum.
Is the 28th available for everyone also? So we would have 2 dates?
I will still be out of the country, but that's only one of us.
14th, okay. Nope, that won't work. 14th's fine on my calendar.
If the room's not available, can this discussion go to July? And how many people would be present for the third Wednesday in July?
On the third Wednesday in July, I will be available.
I would be available in July.
I believe I don't think there's a urgent need to get these items to our heard in June. So I think if we move it to July, we should be fine. And then Traffic Commission normally goes dark in the month of August.
So which are you suggesting? That we try for the 14th, or just automatically reschedule our June meeting for the third Wednesday in July? What do you think is best?
It's probably best to just reschedule at our normal July scheduled time.
Thank you.
Is that July 19th?
Just one second. We're checking on that.
You mean June? Yeah. All right, so I will make the motion that if the room is available and if staff is available, we move our June Traffic and Transportation Commission meeting to June 14th. And if not, we'll just pick up with our normal July meeting, third Wednesday of July.
Good. A second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. We'll take a hand vote.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you, Mrs. Zambrano. This brings us to item 10, Traffic Commission comments and discussions. Are there any topics that we should bring up tonight? Nope. Okay, I have a few things, of course. Mr. Mashiko, we started using green paint to designate bicycle areas. What has come of that? I heard rumors that the paint wasn't holding up and it would require a lot of maintenance if we continued that program, or has that program been completed?
Well, those we have very select locations where those were the green bike lanes were placed, and those were to where we had right turn lanes, and the idea was to get bring more attention to the areas where those conflicts occur to avoid what we call the right hook, and as cars or the cyclists weave over from a bike lane to move to the left of a right turn lane. As far as I heard, we can check into it further, but the paint is holding up. I believe it went down not as paint, but as a thermoplastic material, which is very durable. But as far as we know, they're holding up.
Yeah, because I recollect the vendor was going to donate 2 to see if we like them, and we do like them. So you've gone ahead and implemented more than just the 2. Yes, Mr. Lemon.
If I could, and I don't know how important this is, but I think this information should still be available. One of the articles I remember is from June of 2013, but there is a significant impact on filming revenue in a city that uses painted by green lines. The article that I'm referring to immediately is the Hollywood Reporter, but I don't know how much we do filming here. I know that at the different retail centers, the Oaks and the Promenade, we do a considerable amount, but I don't know how much we do on city streets. But we should at least provide that information to whoever's making the decision so that we know if there's going to be any revenue impacts.
Thank you, Mr. Lovell. I had an opportunity to visit the new bicycle. What do you call those stations? Bicycle service stations? Fix-It stations. Ms. Lowry, could you tell the commission what is going on in the city right now?
Sure. So the county.
Microphone.
Yeah,
it's on.
On?
Is it on?
Okay, now it's on.
There, it's on.
Yes. On Monday, the county fire district unveiled their first Fix-It station, one of 7 in the county. They'll eventually have, I think, 14. And they were the lead in putting the Fix-It stations. Basically, a bike stand where you can put your bike and it has all the tools you need if you have to repair your bike, as well as a pump. And then today we unveiled our first one at the corner of Moore Park Road, South Moore Park Road, and Green Meadow at the Los Robles Trailhead. It's a very heavily utilized road bike intersection as well as mountain bike. So we put our first one in today.
Thank you. Congratulations. That's a
Thank
nice
you.
addition. And then my last comment is, as a result of hearing what's happening on Thousand Oaks Boulevard, Mr. Michigo, do you anticipate more traffic being diverted to Hillcrest as this project moves along?
I guess that's always a possibility. From what I understand, it will take quite a bit of time before the boulevard is developed to the point at which, where I believe the concept was slowing traffic down, that would probably be the reason why that might shift traffic from Thousand Oaks Boulevard to Hillcrest Drive. But that's something that we're going to probably study. We'll do before and after measurements of traffic. Anytime something significant happens, we're always in the business of counting vehicles, especially on a busy corridor like Thousand Oaks Boulevard. So, I mean, it is a possibility.
Would we be wise to study Hillcrest a little more closely as to what its actual capacity is to move traffic?
Well, I know that currently Hillcrest Drive, that parallels Thousand Oaks Boulevard, it's about 4 lanes. Some sections, the one near Duesenberg to Westlake, that one is 2 lanes. But currently the traffic volume level is below 20,000 vehicles per day. So in the section that has the 4-lane striping, there's more than sufficient capacity for additional vehicles. So we're operating very well along Hillcrest currently.
Good. So what would be the percentage of capacity that is being utilized at now? 60%?
I believe our traffic count showed we're about 15,000 vehicles per day. And just as example, when we looked at Arbalest, when we made the restriping from 4 lanes down to 2, the traffic volume levels the upper threshold you want to do that type of striping is 20,000. And currently we're at 13 to 15,000 on Hillcrest. We definitely have more than sufficient capacity to add more traffic there.
So what is the maximum capacity? You said it's at 13,000 now. What can it handle?
Well, it depends. I mean, you can add more volume to it. It just means the more volume you add, your level of service will decrease. So, right now it's probably operating close to level of service A, B. And as you add, make the volume shift over there, or just volume shifts over, it's going to drop to a C or D level. But currently we're well within an A, B range.
A, B. All right. So there's room. All right. Any other comments, questions? Any ideas for future agendas? None? All right. Well, a field trip to the Netherlands. Okay. A motion for that, Mr. Lemo?
We could also do a field trip to Italy where they pay no attention to traffic.
All right, so item 11, our adjournment tonight. The Traffic and Transportation Advisory Commission is now adjourned until 6 p.m. July 14th, is it?
Either June 14th.
June 14th
July 9th.
or July 19th in the boardroom of the Civics Arts Plaza on the 3rd floor. Thank you for joining us. Good night.